Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by putting a very specific image in your head.
Okay.
I want you to picture someone who is just incredibly talented at a very specific thing. Maybe they can paint, maybe they can code, maybe they bake the best sourdough in the tri-state area.
Right, craftsperson, the specialist.
Exactly. But I want you to picture them at the end of a 10-hour shift. They are physically exhausted, their back hurts, they have given every single ounce of their creative energy to the work.
I can feel that.
And then the lights go out, the customers all leave, and they have to walk into a back office, sit down under a flickering fluorescent light, and look at a spreadsheet.
The dreaded spreadsheet. That is where the dream usually goes to die, isn't it?
Exactly. It's that moment where the art crashes headfirst into the commerce. And usually one of them doesn't survive that crash.
No, it's a brutal collision.
We see it all the time, the brilliant artist who goes broke or, the person who sells out and becomes a corporate drone. It feels like you have to choose. You can have a soul or you can have solvency.
It's the oldest tension in the book. I mean, the starving artist trope exists for a reason. It is incredibly difficult to be the person who makes the thing and the person who sells the thing.
They seem like opposite skills.
They require completely different parts of the brain. One requires flow and chaos and intuition. The other requires order and discipline and systems.
Right. And the reason we are here today is that we have found a case study, a stack of notes really, that might just solve that problem.
Or at least provide a roadmap.
A roadmap, exactly. We are looking at a profile that originated from a podcast episode back in February 2023. It's a deep dive into the career of a man named Bennie Pollard. Now, full disclosure for you listening, Bennie Pollard is a hairstylist. But if you are about to tune out because you don't cut hair, don't. Please don't, because this isn't really about hair.
No, not at all. Hair is just the medium. The message is about what we could call the creative entrepreneur's arc.
The creative entrepreneur's arc. I like that.
Pollard is a fascinating subject because he represents a completed circuit. He didn't just survive the transition from artist to business mogul. He thrived in it without losing his credibility in either world, which is the really tricky part.
That's the hook. That's what grabbed me. Usually when a creative person starts talking about business systems, other creatives look at them like they're a traitor.
Yeah, like they've gone over to the dark side.
Like they've joined the suits. But Pollard seems to have avoided that stigma completely.
He has, and our mission today is to unpack exactly how he pulled that off. We're going to look at his origins as a second-generation stylist, his ascent to the absolute peak of the artistic world with these things called the N.A. Awards.
Which we'll get into.
And then his pivot into consulting and authorship with a book that has one of my favorite titles of all time, Small Business for the Rest of Us.
Small Business for the Rest of Us. I circled that title about 5 times in the notes. It implies so much.
All packed with meaning.
But before we get to the philosophy, let's ground this in the person. The source material is from early 2023, specifically an appearance on a Hairstylist Empowerment podcast. Who is Bennie Pollard at this point in time?
So as of early 2023, we are looking at a multi-hyphenate. He is a founder and co-owner of a company called Cool Beauty Consulting. He is an author, he is a speaker, but fundamentally, his entire identity is anchored in being a hairstylist.
It all comes back to the craft.
Always. And not just any hairstylist. The source flags him as a second-generation hairstylist.
I want to stop you right there. Second generation. It's a phrase we hear a lot, and honestly, it's usually followed by an eye roll. Nepo baby, took over dad's shop, born on third base. Is that what we're looking at here?
It is so easy to be cynical about that, but in the trades, and I think specifically in a high-touch trade like hairstyling second generation, implies something very different than it does in, say, Hollywood.
How so?
It's not just about connections or getting a job. It's about immersion. Total immersion from childhood.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, he didn't just learn the trade in cosmetology school. He learned it by osmosis. Think about the sensory experience of a salon.
Oh, it's a lot.
The smell of the perm solution, the constant noise of the dryers, the chatter, the way a stylist has to manage the emotional state of a client who's sitting in the chair crying because they hate their new bangs.
Right. Part therapist, part artist. It's a high-stress environment.
Extremely. So if you are second generation, you grew up in that theater, you absorbed the tacit knowledge, all the unwritten rules of the culture, long before you ever picked up a pair of shears.
So you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from day one.
You saw the burnout. You saw the physical toll it takes on the body. You saw the cash flow crunches around the holidays. You saw what happens when a star stylist quits. and takes half the clients with them.
So it's less about inheriting a job and more about inheriting a reality, a very specific, often difficult reality.
Precisely. It gives you a baseline operating system for the industry that an outsider just doesn't have. But, and this is the crucial part that really defines him, a legacy can be a trap.
A trap? How?
It can be a comfortable hammock where you just coast on what your parents built. You just take over the family business and maintain the status quo. Bennie Pollard clearly did not do that.
No, looking at the accolades here, he definitely didn't coast. The source lists him as a 7-time NAHA finalist and a 2-time NAHA winner. Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw NAHA, I thought maybe it was like a regional thing.
Yeah, that's a common thought.
Like best hair in the Tri-County area or something.
You could not be more wrong. Calling NAHA a regional contest is like calling the Super Bowl a pickup game at the local YMCA.
Okay.
NAHA stands for the North American Hairstyling Awards. It is, without exaggeration, the Oscars of the industry.
The Oscars. Okay, that frames it very differently.
It is the absolute pinnacle of artistic achievement for a hairstylist in North America. There is no higher honor from your peers. But it's actually harder than the Oscars in one specific way.
How's that?
In the Oscars, you are judging a performance in a movie that had a budget of millions, with a whole studio behind it. In LA, you are the producer, the director, and the star.
So you're doing everything yourself.
You have to conceive an avant-garde collection. We're talking hair that looks like sculpture, like architecture, things you would never see on the street. Then you have to hire the photographer, the makeup artist, the models, and here's the kicker. You fund this all yourself. It is a massive financial and creative risk every single time.
Wait a second. So you pay to enter? It's not just based on your day-to-day work with clients?
No. This is not client hair. This is art hair. It's pure R&D. You are pushing the boundaries of what the material human hair can actually do. So when the source says he was a finalist 7 times, that is just a staggering statistic.
It means he was in the top handful of stylists in the entire continent 7 different times?
It does. But it also means he lost 5 times.
That's the part I wanted to dig into. 7 finalist nods, 2 wins. That means 5 times he did all the work, he spent the money, he flew to the ceremony, sat in that crowd, heart-pounding, and heard someone else's name called.
And then, presumably, he went back to the salon the next week and started planning the next collection. That is the detail that tells me who Bennie Pollard is. That is pure grit.
Right.
That is the difference between someone who is merely talented and someone who's a master. A master can handle the rejection. A master uses the loss as fuel, not as a stop sign.
So this establishes his credibility beyond any doubt. He isn't just a guy who inherited a shop. He is a guy who went to the mat against the best in the world and won twice.
Exactly. This is the artist pillar of his career. It's what gives him the right to speak. He's also an international guest artist, which means he travels the world teaching these advanced techniques. He has reached the mountaintop of the craft.
So here is the mystery then. You're at the top of the mountain. You're the rock star. You're winning awards. Why pivot? Because according to the timeline in our source, in 2013, he launches Cool Beauty Consulting.
Yeah, a totally different direction.
Why go from being the star on stage to being the guy looking at spreadsheets for other people? It seems like a step down, in a way.
It's the classic shift from doing to teaching, but I think it was driven by a specific gap he saw in the market. Think back to that second-generation upbringing.
Okay.
He knows the industry inside and out. And what he likely saw as he traveled the world as a guest artist was a landscape of broken businesses.
Broken in what way? Financially?
Broken financially. Broken operationally. The beauty industry has this massive systemic flaw. The education system teaches you how to pass a state board, exam safety, sanitation, how to do a perm, but it teaches you almost nothing about business.
So they send you out with scissors, but no calculator.
Essentially. You have these incredible artists who can create masterpieces with hair, but they don't understand profit margins. They don't understand client retention rates. They don't know how read a P&L statement. They don't understand inventory turns.
And what happens?
They work themselves to death and have nothing to show for it at the end of the year. They're trapped.
And that's where the hairstylist empowerment comes in. The podcast he was on is called Hairstylist Empowerment. It sounds like a buzzword, but in this context, it sounds like survival skills.
It is survival skills. Empowerment here means financial literacy. It means operational competence. It means taking control. Pollard likely realized that he could help more people by teaching them how to run their business than he could by just cutting one head of hair at a time.
It's scaling his impact.
That's the perfect way to put it. It is moving from individual contribution, where your income is tied directly to your time and your two hands, to systemic contribution, where you are upgrading the entire industry.
I want to talk about the name Cool Beauty Consulting. It's an interesting choice. It doesn't sound very corporate, does it?
No, and that is absolutely strategic. If he had called it Pollard Strategic Management Solutions, he would sound like one of the suits.
He'd sound like an outsider.
Completely. Cool beauty sounds like the industry. It sounds aesthetic. It sounds approachable. It signals to the stylist, hey, I am one of you. I get what cool is, but I also understand business.
It's a bridge between those two worlds.
It is a brand built on empathy. He's saying, I speak your language.
And that brings us to 2018. 5 years after launching the consulting firm, he releases a book. And we have to spend some time on this because the title is just, it's perfect.
It is a masterpiece of copywriting.
Small business for the rest of us. Let's deconstruct that. For the rest of us. Who is he talking to? And more importantly, who is he excluding with that phrase?
He is drawing a very clear line in the sand. Them is the traditional business world. The Fortune 500 CEOs, the people who get MBAs from Wharton, the people who read the Wall Street Journal and talk about leveraging synergies and optimizing EBITDA.
The people who wear ties, the spreadsheet people from the beginning of our conversation.
The people who wear ties and work in glass towers, Pollard is saying. That world exists, but it is not your world. Their advice does not apply to you.
So who is us?
Us is the messy middle. Us is the creatives. The tradespeople, the salon owners, yes, but also the bakers, the mechanics, the graphic designers, the people who started a business because they loved the craft, not because they lived quarterly reports.
It feels like he is validating their feeling of being an imposter in the business world.
That's it.
Like, it's okay if you don't understand corporate jargon. You aren't stupid. You just aren't them.
Precisely. He is positioning himself as the translator. He's bilingual, he speaks artist, he has the NEA trophies to prove it, but he also speaks business. He has the thriving consulting firm to prove it. He is taking these complex, intimidating concepts of business management and translating them into the language of the rest of us.
And then there is the subtitle, which I love even more. One Dude's Journey.
Just one dude, not one guru's manifesto.
It's so unpretentious. It's disarming.
It is. The beauty industry is overwhelmingly female. By calling himself one dude, he is acknowledging his specific place within it, but he is also lowering the status gap. He isn't setting himself up as the expert or the master. He's just a dude who went through it.
It makes the book feel safe, you know? If I'm a stylist who is terrified of math and spreadsheets, I might be scared to pick up a business textbook, but I'm not scared to pick up a story about one dude.
Exactly. It promises a narrative, not a lecture. And the source actually describes the book as a business bio. That is a very interesting genre distinction.
Yeah, what does that mean? A business bio? Is it a memoir or a business book?
It's a hybrid. A pure memoir is about the person's life. A textbook is about the dry rules. A business bio uses the person's life as a series of case studies to teach the rules.
So it's teaching through story.
It's saying, here is a mess I got into, here's how I got out of it, and here's the principle you can extract from my mistake.
The source notes that the book contains insights into the highs and lows. I want to pause on lows. Why is it so important for a mentor figure, someone the source literally calls a true inspiration, to talk about his failures?
Because perfection is completely alienating. If Bennie Pollard only talked about his wins, I entered NHA and won, I started a company and made millions, he becomes a unicorn. He's not relatable.
Right.
The reader looks at him and thinks, well, good for him. He's special. I'm just me, and I'm struggling.
It creates a distance. He's up there on the stage. I'm down here in the audience.
Exactly. But when he shares the lows, and the source assures us he does, he climbs down from that pedestal. He walks into the audience and says, I struggle too. I had staff walk out on me. I had months where I couldn't pay myself. The struggle is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are in the game.
That is incredibly powerful. It combats that Instagram reality where everyone else's life and business looks perfect and you feel like the only failure.
Especially in the beauty industry, which is all about projecting an image of perfection. Authenticity is the rarest currency there is. By showing his scars, he earns the trust of the reader. And once he has their trust, then he can teach them the business.
So we have the stylist, the consultant, and the author. But looking at the source, he's doing all of this simultaneously. He's a founder, co-owner, a speaker, an author, and a mentor. How do these pieces fit together? Is he just juggling plates, or is there a system here?
It is definitely a system. Think of it as an ecosystem of influence. Or in business terms, it's a flywheel.
A flywheel. Okay, walk me through that. How does cutting hair help you sell a book?
It all starts with one thing: credibility. That's the NHA wins and the second-generation roots. That is the bedrock. That is the heavy part of the flywheel that you have to push to get it started. Without that, nobody listens.
Okay, so the art opens the door. It gives him the right to have an opinion.
Right. Then you have the reach. That's the book and the speaking appearances, like this podcast he was on. These are low-barrier entry points for people to get to know him.
What do you mean by low barrier?
A stylist in Nebraska who's never heard of him can buy the book for 20 bucks. They can listen to the podcast for free. This spreads the cool beauty philosophy far and wide, getting his ideas out to thousands of people.
So it acts as a sort of marketing funnel.
Exactly. And for a small percentage of those people, the ones who read the book and say, wow, this is me, I need more help, they move to the next part of the ecosystem, which is depth.
And that's the consulting.
That is the consulting. That is where the real revenue is, and that is where the deep one-on-one transformation happens for a salon owner.
And I assume the consulting creates new success stories.
Which then become new stories for the next speech or testimonials for the next edition of the book, which then brings more people into the top of the funnel. The flywheel spins faster and faster and with less effort over time.
It's interesting that the thing that started it all, the actual cutting of hair, is probably the smallest part of his day-to-day business now.
That is the natural and I think necessary evolution of the creative entrepreneur. You start by doing the thing. Then you master the thing. Then you teach the thing. Then you build a system for the thing.
And if you don't evolve...
If you stay in the doing phase forever, you have a job, a very hard job, usually. Bennie Pollard has built a business and a legacy.
And a legacy. That's a great point. I want to pivot to you, the listener. Now, we've been deep in the salon world, but let's say I'm listening to this and I'm a software developer, or I run a small bakery, or I'm a freelance writer. I have never held a pair of shears in my life. Why should I care about Bennie Pollard?
You should care because Bennie Pollard is solving your problem, just in a different setting. The hair is just the backdrop. The plot of his story is universal to anyone who sells their expertise.
So what are the universal lessons here? If I strip away all the hairspray, what is left?
I think there are three big universal takeaways for any specialist who wants to grow. First, legacy is a launching pad, not a resting place.
That goes back to the second generation thing we talked about at the start.
Right. Pollard had a head start. He was born into the industry, but he didn't rest on it. He used it as a foundation to reach a much higher level, no échec, becoming an international artist. So if you have an advantage, whether it's family connections, a great education, or some early success, don't use it as a hammock. Use it as a ladder to climb higher.
That's good. Don't be defined by where you started. Be defined by where you took it. What's
Yep.
the second one?
The second is codify your knowledge. This is a huge one. Pollard didn't just go around giving random tips to people. He wrote a book. He built a consulting framework. He took the chaos of his 2 decades of experience and turned it into an ordered system.
That's the small business for the rest of us part.
It is. If you want to scale your career beyond what you personally can do in a day, you have to find a way to get the knowledge out of your head and into a format that can exist without you.
Like what?
Write the handbook. Record the video course. Build the template. Create the standard operating procedure. That is how you escape the time for money trap.
And the third lesson?
Accessibility matters. We keep coming back to one dude's journey. Pollard didn't try to sound like a Harvard professor. He spoke the language of his tribe. He made himself relatable. If you are trying to lead or teach, you have to meet people where they are. Don't use jargon to sound smart. Use stories to be helpful.
For the rest of us, it's such a sticky concept. It's so powerful because it creates a community instantly.
It does. It says, I am on your team, not above you.
I want to look at the timeline one last time because it tells its own story. The consulting firm launches in 2013. The book comes out in 2018. The podcast appearance we're sourcing from is 2023. That is a 10-year arc.
It's such an important reminder that this is a long game. Look at that gap. It took him 5 years of active consulting before he wrote the book.
What does that tell you?
It tells me he didn't write the book based on theory. He wrote it based on data. He pressure tested his ideas in the real world with his clients for 5 years. He lived the case studies before he published them.
That's a comforting thought for anyone out there feeling like they're behind. You don't have to launch the book on day one. You have to live the chapters first.
You have to live the highs and lows before you can write about them with any real authority.
So to sum this up, we have taken a deep dive into a profile of a hairstylist, And what we've really found is a blueprint for creative entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen how deep technical expertise, the NAA wins, provides the credibility for broader business influence. We've seen how vulnerability in sharing your lows builds trust. And we've seen that you can scale your impact by teaching others what you know.
It is a story about integration. Bennie Pollard isn't artist or businessman. He's both at the same time. He proves that the spreadsheet doesn't have to kill the soul. In fact, the spreadsheet protects the soul.
The spreadsheet protects the soul. I love that. Unpack that for me.
Because if the business is solid, if you know your numbers, if you're profitable, if you can make payroll, the artist is free to create without fear.
Ah, I see.
Financial stress is the absolute enemy of creativity. It paralyzes you. Pollard teaches you how to kill the stress so that creativity can live.
Before we go, I want to leave the listener with a thought, a little challenge, if you will.
Let's hear it.
The source material explicitly highlights one dirt's journey and the highs and lows. Bennie Pollard put his failures on paper for the world to read. My question to you, listening to this, is this. If you were to write a business bio of your work today, right now, will you be brave enough to include the lows?
That is a tough question. It's a real gut check.
Would you scrub the record? Would you make it look like a straight, clean line to success? Or would you be honest about the projects that failed, the clients you lost, the money you wasted? Because what we learned today from Bennie Pollard is that the lows are often the most valuable part of the story.
They're the best teaching moments.
They are what make it useful to others. Perfection is boring. The struggle is where the real learning happens.
Authenticity requires bravery.
But it seems like it pays off.
Something to chew on. Go find your own balance between the cool and the beauty, between the art and the business. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.
You know, I'm still thinking about the second generation dynamic. I know we wrapped, but there's something else there. Ugh. We're going into overtime. I like it. What's gnawing at you?
Well, we talked about the advantage of it, the head start and inheriting the reality of the business.
Right, the immersion.
But think about the pressure, the other side of that coin.
You mean the shadow of the parent?
Exactly. The source just lists it as a biographical fact, second generation. But imagine the psychology of that for a minute. You enter an industry where everyone already knows your last name. You aren't just Bennie, you're so-and-so's kid.
Yeah, that cuts both ways, doesn't it? You get the introduction, sure, but you also get the immediate skepticism. Is he actually good, or is he just here because of his family?
Right. Every success you have is potentially discounted. Every failure is magnified. In that context, the annual wins take on a completely different meaning, don't they?
How so?
They aren't just professional milestones. They are declarations of independence.
Ah, I see what you're saying. You can't nepotism your way into an NEL win.
Yeah.
It's a blind judging process in many of the stages. It is pure, unadulterated merit.
So winning MHA was his way of saying to the world, and maybe to himself, I am here on my own terms. This is mine.
I think so.
Yeah.
It validates his identity as separate from his lineage. And you know what? That might explain the drive to go for it 7 times.
The persistence.
Yeah. Maybe a single win could be dismissed as a fluke. But to be a finalist 7 times and win twice, you can't argue with that. He needed to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Not just to the industry, but maybe to himself more than anyone.
And it makes his transition to mentor more poignant too, doesn't it?
Go on.
If he grew up watching his parents struggle, or maybe watching his parents succeed but pay a heavy personal price for it,
Yeah.
like never being home or being stressed all the time, then the empowerment mission becomes deeply personal.
It does. It moves from being just a business opportunity to being a crusade.
A crusade, yes. He isn't just selling consulting packages. He's trying to save the next generation of stylists from the pain that the previous generation suffered. He's trying to break a cycle.
Saving them from the pain. That's what a good mentor does, isn't it? They stand in the pothole they fill into and shout back to everyone else, don't step here. Go around.
Exactly. And because he has the credibility of being second generation, he's seen this movie before. He knows how it ends. People listen to him.
They trust that he gets it. He's not an outsider.
It really is a fascinating profile. It's amazing how much you can extract from just a few biographical details if you really look at the context surrounding them.
Context is everything. A hairstylist is just a job title. Bennie Pollard is a trajectory.
A trajectory worth studying. All right, now I think I'm really signing off.
I believe you this time. Good stuff.
Thanks again, everyone. Keep climbing.